July 22nd. To pass the time during our long walk, we decided to tell stories. At first, the plan was to tell each other ghost stories because it was so dark and eerie walking the long stretches of abandoned beach. Like any second, some drugged out bum might jump us, or some crazy serial killer who sits all night with an axe leaned against his shoulder, waiting for victims like us to come strolling by, gazing at the damn stars. But the ghost story idea didn't fly because none of us actually knew any ghost stories. Maybe Mong did, but he wasn't saying anything at all. He was being silent Mong, my new name for when he walks right next to you but acts like he doesn't hear a word anybody's saying, even when they ask him a direct question. Anyways, me and Rondell ended up just telling random stuff from our lives. The story about Rondell's horny cat. Rondell told us about the former foster mom's crazy cat that never got neutered and always sat in their 6-story window meowing at the female cats that pranced by on the street below. One day, Rondell told us the cat lost its mind after seeing this one particular calico and started tearing around the house, pissing and shitting everywhere and knocking things over, and then it jumped right through the screen and out the jam window. It ricocheted off a tree and somebody's awning and fell into a thorny-ass rose bush, where it started yelping like a dog. The female cat raced off down the street, spooked as hell. Rondell said when his foster mom looked at the hole in the screen, she covered her ears and screamed her head off and started running in the place with mad tears streaming down her face. When she finally got herself together, she and Rondell and a couple of his other foster brothers and sisters rumbled down the stairs and out the front door to see if the cat was still alive. It was, but just barely, and it wasn't yelping no more or making any sound at all. Poor thing had 2 broken legs and a dislocated shoulder, and its fur was all shredded up and bloody because of the thorns. She pulled his little broken body up out of the rosebush and handed it to Rondell, and they all ran down the middle of the street for 10 blocks to the vet's office. But all the vet did was explain the injuries and put the cat to sleep. It was real sad, Rondell said, shaking his head. We was all of us crying in that man's office. Rondell looked mad serious about the memory of the poor cat, and so I did everything I could not to laugh, pinched my own side and bit my lip, but I couldn't make my grin go away. We gave him a little funeral, Rondell said. The lady told a speech and asked us did we want to say anything too. I hope you paid your respects, Rondell. Course I did, Mexico, Rondell shot back. I said about how everybody he made happy when he was still there, and when he went in their laps, and how he had such soft skin. You mean fur. Rondell looked at me. That's what I said. I started cracking up a little behind my fist. I kept picturing the cat leaping its little ass out the window after the girl won, whipping around in the air like a damn helicopter blade. I peeked at Rondell, but he didn't seem like he was paying attention to me. You know what the saddest part is, Rondell said? I made my face go straight. What? After I said the thing about his fur and someone else started talking, I kept thinking how he could never go to heaven, not even a cat one. Yeah, I said, on the verge of busting up again. Why's that? It's because the little guy committed suicide. I already told you what my auntie said about people committing suicide. It's for animals, too. That's my word. All for a chance at a little tale, I said. And after I said it, Rondell looked at me and we were both sort of cracking up together, even though we both knew technically a cat getting hurt wasn't something people should really be laughing about. The story about me and Diego at the beach. I told them about the time when me and Diego went to the beach by ourselves the first and only time after my pop passed. Diego had just gotten his license and he begged our mom to let us have the car for the day. She wasn't exactly stoked on the idea, but eventually after we helped vacuum and dust the whole apartment, she handed Diego the keys and told us to be super careful and drive in the slow lane. First thing we did was pop in some hip-hop. I told him switching my bags to the other shoulder. We were walking along the solid part of the sand where it was dark and packed tight because the tide had just been there. Mong was closest to the surf, Rondell was in the middle, and I was toward the cliffs. As I started going into my story, I could actually see me and Diego in the car, rolling down our windows and pointing to girls on the side of the road. It made me wish I was right back in that time for real. Here's how I told it to him. So our moms never let us listen to rap when she was in the car, right? So you know we gotta blast that shit the whole 2-hour ride. When we finally get to Santa Cruz, we park downtown, walk to the beach with all our stuff, and my bro Diego goes, Wherever you want, Gully. Your pig, little bro. I stand there scoping the scene for a minute and tell him, how about over there, D, by the lifeguard tower? But he frowns my shit down, points instead to this group of girls laying out in bikinis. Or maybe we should go see what's up with the hyenas, you feel me? I laugh and follow him over there. That's something you gotta understand about my bro, man. It isn't a minute that goes by when he isn't on some kind of female mission. So we go over there, set up shop right next to him, and me and Diego pull off our shorts and start tossing the football around. And my bro's totally playing for their eyes, right? He's tackling my ass into the sand and talking mad head like we're on some NFL type shit. But I don't even care because we're at the beach, man, and it's actually fun as hell messing around with Diego like that. It isn't long before the girls start paying attention to us either, or at least Diego. One of them sits up, taps her friend on the back, and points, and pretty soon they're all kind of watching us on the slick, and Diego has a mad sixth sense for that kind of thing, right? So he decides to go on some next level shit. He catches a long ass toss from me, cups the football under his arm, and points to the buoy floating out past the waves. Yo, Gully, he says, you think you could swim all the way out there and touch it? I look to where he's pointing and then back to him. I don't even know, D. That looks kind of far. And then out of nowhere, he tosses the football to the side and takes off, sprinting toward the water, dives under, and starts swimming freestyle like he's damn Michael Phelps. I stand like a statue for a quick sec, watching him. But then I tell myself to come on, man, and run in after. Once we've been swimming a while, though, I start thinking about how I ain't so sure I'm that good of a swimmer. So I slowed my dog paddle down and yelled to Diego, yo, man, D, I don't know if I could make it all the way. But he turns around treading water and gives me this irritated look. You ain't gonna bitch out on me, is you, gal? And this is my big bro we talking about, right? Of course I'm not gonna bitch out on Diego. So I just put my head down and kept on swimming hard as I can. Not 10 more minutes go by, though, when Diego pulls up and I run right into his ass. We both tread water, staring at each other, our eyes bugged in fear. He goes, yo, I don't know if I could make this either. I look out at the buoy and then back to the shore. Yo, I put this on everything, Rondo. We're right in the damn middle. And I'm not even gonna lie, I panic, start hyperventilating and reaching out for Diego's shoulder, trying to keep my head above water so I could breathe. But he's brushing my hand away, thrashing around to keep his nose and mouth up too. Shit, D, I shout, all out of breath. What are we gonna do? Call for help, he shouts back. And we both start waving our damn hands around, yelling our heads off for the lifeguard like little girls. Diego puts 2 fingers in his mouth trying to whistle, but when he does, he just thinks underwater and no sound comes out. He thrashes his way back up and gulps for air. But the lifeguard finally spots us. She stands up, focuses our shit in her binoculars. And them girls on the beach, man, they're all standing up now too, realizing our dumbasses are in mad distress. Random people on the beach stop walking their dogs or whatever to see what's going to happen to 2 Mexican kids about to drown. And me and Diego are out there shitting our pants, splashing around to keep above water. The lifeguard sets down her binoculars and reaches for her electric megaphone. And check this out, yo. She wags her finger at us, announces over the whole damn beach. No, just stand up. Just stand up. And that's exactly what we do, man. Me and my bro, we reach our feet down and touch the bottom. I swear to God, yo, we actually stand up, just like she said. The water's only up to our necks. And you know what we do then? We walk back to the beach, man. I put that on everything. We were on a big-ass sandbar. You swear, Rondell said, damn near shoving me over in disbelief. I'm telling you. You walked back to shore? Walked. Rondell laughed. You crazy, Mexico. When we got back to our towels, I asked Diego did he still want to throw the football around, but he waved me off, man. Said we had to get the car back to Mom's. It was the first time I ever saw Diego leave someplace without getting a girl's digits. Me and Rondell laughed and said a few more things about it, and then we turned to Mong thinking maybe he'd want to tell a story of his own. But he was just walking alongside us with no expression on his scarred-up face. It was like he hadn't heard one word of my story about almost drowning. Me and Rondell looked at each other. I shrugged. Yo, Earth to Mong, I said. But dude still didn't look at me. I turned to Rondell and told him, it's okay, man. He's just in silent Mong mode right now. Rondell smiled and nodded his head some, and we all 3 of us kept walking along the wet sand, a half moon pasted on the sky over us and shining in the black ocean. A few minutes passed, and then Rondell jumped in and told a story about this three-legged dog that was another foster house he lived at, and I told a couple more stories about me and Diego. And before we knew it, we'd made it all the way to Santa Cruz. After only a couple wrong turns, Mong led us to a bus station, and I paid for 3 one-way tickets to LA, the furthest south we could go in one shot. We went to a 24-hour burrito spot and ate carne asada tacos while waiting for our bus to come. Then we climbed aboard and each grabbed our own seat in the back and leaned against the window. Mong and Rondell felt right to sleep, but I stayed up for a while thinking about Stockton and Diego and all the funny shit that happened with us. I had this bad longing to be back there that sat in my stomach like a 20-pound weight. Out of nowhere, I felt incredibly alone and lost on the bus, and I had no idea what I was even doing or which way was which. My breathing got rushed. I felt no different than when me and Diego damn near drowned in the ocean that day I just told Rondell about. Just find the sandbar, I kept telling myself. There's got to be a sandbar. But there was no sandbar. I stared out my window as we moved through Santa Cruz and past all these homeless, long-haired hippies sleeping near the dried-up fountain and down a sleepy neighborhood street where tree leaves scraped the top of the bus and all the houses looked like the olden days. We veered up the southbound on-ramp and merged onto the quiet highway. Even though the sun was starting to creep up into the sky in the east, it seemed like everybody was asleep on the entire bus except me, and I just sat there, watching the light wash over the mountains the way it had a million times before, and the way I realized it would a million times after. I reached into my bag and pulled out my journal and started writing what was happening to us. What Rondell thinks about part 2. About an hour into the bus ride, Rondell woke up and looked over his seat to me. I stopped writing. "Hey, Mexico," he said in his half-asleep voice that sounded all froggy and inhuman. "What's up?" He smacked his lips a couple times and closed his eyes halfway, making me think he was still asleep, like he was just sleep-talking or something. He took a deep breath and sighed. "Mexico," he said again. "What?" I said, kind of irritated. If he wasn't going to say anything, I just wanted to finish my journal stuff so I could go to sleep too. "I bet he could see us now," Rondell said. "Who?" "God." I raised my eyebrow at the guy, trying to think what the hell he was talking about now. "I bet he could see everything, 'cause we ain't in juvie no more. We ain't even under no roofs." Right then, I sort of remembered back to the first conversation me and him had when we were roommates, when he asked me, did I think God or whatever could see us when we were locked up, and I told him that thing about Santa Claus. I couldn't believe he was still thinking about that. Rondell opened his eyes wider and told me, "I just figured out all's I want of anything, Mexico." "Go ahead, Rondell. This ought to be good." "I want to be seed by him. That's it. So he knows I'm here too, just like other people." "Okay," I said, closing out my journal. I was in there a long time, though. I've been hoping maybe he ain't lost track of me. Rondell looked down at my journal, and then he looked back at me. "I'm fitting on asking him about that when my time comes to go up there." "Asking him what?" I said. I was actually kind of interested in what Rondell was going to say for once. It felt like he was getting at something important. He wiped a hand down his face and yawned. If he could see people when they locked up. I had this one guard told me when I was little. He said God couldn't see nobody who was in jail. I said back how God could do anything, 'cause he all-knowing and all-being. But the man just shook his head at me. I stared at Rondell, wondering why some people thought so much about religion and others didn't think about it at all, like me. I wondered who was better off about that. "And also if cats can be in heaven," Rondell said. "I'm going to ask him about that one too. And dogs. I got things I want to ask in Mexico. If I ain't too nervous, I mean." Then Rondell shrugged and his eyelids started falling down his eyes, even though he was still sitting up. He jerked and smiled, yawned the biggest yawn that's humanly possible, and went down on his seat again, on his back. He started snoring right away. I looked at him over the seat, cracking up to myself. I thought how if there was really a so-called God, he better be seeing Rondell, even if the guy was locked up. It'd be entertaining as hell. Plus, it'd be messed up if somebody who was God only cared about seeing people who did everything right, or rich people, or smart people. He should see people like Rondell, too. Rondell's life shouldn't mean any less than anybody else's. I leaned back and looked out the bus window, and the cars flashing by on the other side of the freeway. At the houses and the car dealerships and the off ramps and the gas station signs and hamburger places and big green trees. It was so weird thinking how I was actually alive to look at it all.